This was number 1, and the first thing that you want to do is to get everything on one side. So I'll bring this over, and that'll be 2x squared plus 4x minus 30 equals 0. It's always good to pull everything on one side and have 0 on the other side. Then we can decide how to deal with these things. You notice that there's a 2 common to everything, so if you multiply both sides by 1/2, you can knock those out and you'll be left with regular x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. So at this point you're going to want to try to factor it. Are there two numbers that multiply, add to 2 but multiply to negative 15, and it is factorable, so this one will be x minus 5 times, x plus 5 times x minus 3 equals 0, and so that means that x equals 3 or minus 5, and that's number 1. Number 2, alright, everything is already on one side, and there are no common factors, so if I saw this, I would want to hit it with the quadratic formula. I wouldn't want to do complete the square because I would have to divide that 2 out of everything, and then I'm going to have to deal with fractions, and nobody wants to go down that road. So that's A, and then B is negative 6, and C is negative 1. So just do it up. B squared, negative B, so that's positive 6, plus minus the square root of B squared, so that's 36 minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is negative 1, over 2A, so over 4. When you work all this stuff out, you have the two minus signs, so they add, and then that'll be the square root of 36 plus 8, or 44, so it's 6 plus minus the square root of 44 over 4. And you can break this down because the square root of 44 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 11. And the square root of 11 is square root of 4 is 2, so it's really 6 plus minus 2 radical 11 over 4. And then finally, you notice that a 2 factors out of the top. So so that'll be 2 times 3 plus minus radical 11 over 4, and then you can cancel the 2's here, and the final answer is 3 plus minus radical 11 over 2. Right, that's 1 and 2. Number 3, a couple different ways of doing it. If you see it right away, the first thing that you're going to want to do is square root both sides. That would be the best thing, because on this side that'll just leave you with x minus 5 equals, and then on this side the square root you get plus minus the square root of 49, which is 7. So then you add over to 5, and then you get x equals 5 plus minus 7. So that's actually x equals 5 plus 7 is 12, and 5 minus 7 is negative 2. If you didn't see that, you could have multiplied it all out. But you have to be aware that this is the best way for this. All right, this is the simplest way. If you when you multiply this stuff out, what's that going to give you? That'll give you x squared minus 5x, so that's minus 10x plus 25 equals 49. So right away, this is a more complicated problem than what we started with. But assuming that you did it that way, what you would want to do would be to bring over the 49, and that'll give you x squared minus 10x. That would be minus 50 plus 1, so that would be minus 24 equals 0. And then notice this does factor. Two numbers that add to minus 10 but multiply to 24, those are the 12 and 2. So it factors into x minus 12 times x plus 2 equals 0, and therefore you get the same answers, x equals 12 or minus 2. But if it ever comes to you that way, most of the work is already done for you. If we had started here, if we had wanted to, say, complete the square on this problem, this portion of it would be what you would complete. Half of 10 is 5, and 5 squared is 25, so it's already there. We would, in a complete the square problem, this we would want to turn into this, and then we would take it from there. So this is a really good thing to have from the beginning. We were trying to just kind of give it to you, but that's how it goes. This next one was, you had to solve this one by completing the square. I didn't give you any choice. So the first thing that you notice is that there's a 2 in everything, so you multiply both sides by 1/2. 1/2 times this equals 1/2 times 0. And that'll leave you with x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0. So you complete the square on this. Well, we'd have to bring over the 2 first. So we'll say x squared plus 5x equals 2. And then you got to put in the magic term that's going to make it factor into a perfect square. So that number is half of 5, which, if I'm doing a little side work here, I would say 5/2, squared is 25 over 4. So that's the number that you have to add to both sides. So I'll say plus 25/4 plus 25/4. You have to add it to both sides, maintain equality. After doing so, this automatically factors as into a perfect square. It's going to be x plus, because this is a plus sign, and the number that goes here is going to be half of this, or the square root of this. So that's 5 over 2 quantity squared equals, and then when you add this up, 2 is actually 8/4. So 8/4 plus 25/4 is 33/4. And then it's a good deal, because all you have to do is just square root both sides, and it turns into the problem that we just did. So when you square root that, you'll get x plus 5/2 equals plus and minus square root of 33 over what would be the square root of 4, but that's just 2. So then to finish that off, you just add this on both sides. Don't be afraid of the fractions. It'll be minus 5/2 plus minus radical 33 over 2. And you can combine these because the denominator is already common. You could just say minus 5 plus minus radical 33 over 2. And that's it for that one. The next one had fractions in it. I'll start you off with this. Now, I like to clear the fractions from the beginning. So I see that this is over an x, and this is also over an x. So if I multiply both sides by x, it's going to cancel these out. And then I'll have everything on one line with no fractions, and then we can clean it up and take it from there. So I'll multiply both sides by x. So put parentheses around it, times x times x. Now when I distribute this x to this term, what I will initially get will be x times 2x minus 3 over x plus 4x. And on this side, when I distribute this in, I'll get x squared equals 3x over x. Now, having done that, the x's are going to cancel. These ones go, and these ones go, which leaves everything on one line for us. Now we got 2x minus 3, drop the parentheses, we don't need them, plus 4x equals, this was a minus sign, equals x squared minus 3. And so, combine the like terms, since when I see this, I'm thinking that when I simplify everything down, I'm going to get a regular quadratic. And I don't want to mess with the sign later on, so what I do is, since there's a positive x squared over here, I'm going to take these terms and put them on this side. So I'll just add these up first. I get 2x plus 4x this is really 6x minus 3 equals x squared minus 3. And then if I add 3 to both sides, 3's cancel. And then I have 6x equals x squared. So I want to keep this here because I don't like negative signs in front of the x squareds. So I bring this over and I have x squared minus 6x equals 0. Don't freeze here because this is pretty easy too. All that you have to, if you have this minus this is 0, both terms have an x in it. So you can factor an x out of both things. So it's x times x minus 6 equals 0. And then it's all done because you have the product of two things is 0. So either x equals 0 or x equals positive 6. But x can't be 0 because 0 is extraneous. When you plug it back into the original, it would cause division by 0. So you're going to want to get rid of that, and the only answer is x equals positive 6. Next one was very similar, only it has two different denominators. So I like to clear them once from the beginning, so I'm going to have to multiply by something that has both x and an x plus 1 in it. So since I want to cancel them both, I'll multiply both sides by x times x plus 1 and x times x plus 1. After I distribute that in, on this side I'll get 2x plus 1 over x plus 1 minus 4x x plus 1 over x, and on the other side that'll give me 3x x plus 1 over x plus 1. The reason why I did that was so now we'll get something is going to cancel in each one of these terms. The x plus 1s will cancel here, the x's will cancel in this one, and the x plus 1s will cancel out of that one. So what's left? All that's left is we got 2x minus 4 times the quantity x plus 1 equals, and on this side you're just left with 3x. And so it winds up, it ends up being just like the other one. Multiply everything out and collect like terms, and things should just kind of come together. We'll get 2x minus 4x minus 4. And I'll bring this over on the other side because I'm going to combine it with the other stuff. So I'll say minus 3x equals 0. When I start combining here, what do we got? 2x minus 4x, it's minus 2x minus 3 is minus 3x is minus 5x minus 4 equals 0. And then the game is over because all you got to do is add over the 4, minus 5x equals 4, and divide through by minus 5, x equals minus 4/5. The last three word problems are in the video description. It says that a new program claims to reduce the response times of police by 12%. So if the original call, and it says that the current average response time is 22 minutes. And it's going to reduce this by 12%. So it's going to be reduced to 88% of this current time. But the question asks, by how many minutes will the response times decrease? So 12% of this is what's going to be subtracted away. Because it asked how much time was saved, you're going to say all that you need is 12% of 22 minutes. And that's 2.64 minutes. And that's it. That's all that you needed to do with that one. Another way that you could have done it was you could have found 88% of this. So you would have done 0.88 times 22. And that would have given you the new response time. But you would have to subtract that from 22 minutes to get the difference. In any case, 2.64 minutes is what the answer was. Second one says there's some number. Basically, if you read it, it says that there's a number out there that has the property of when you square it, the answer that you get is the same as though you had taken that number and added 1 to it. So this is the equation that you set up. X squared is x equals x plus 1. Now, if you take this out of context, this is a problem that we've already solved on the previous page. It's just a quadratic equation. So bring it all over to one side. X squared minus x minus 1 must be 0. And your options are to factor it, complete the square, or quadratic formula. Since it doesn't factor, and I don't feel like completing the square and all the numbers are nice and low, I don't mind so much doing the quadratic formula. So the solutions of this equation will be negative b, 1, plus negative the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, 2. Be careful with your negative signs here. We got two minuses, that's plus plus. So that'll be a square root of 1 plus minus 1 plus minus radical 5. 1 plus minus radical 5 over 2. There are actually two numbers that have that property, and these are both it. But tau is actually only the positive one. 1 plus radical 5 over 2. You had a calculator. If you got this answer, you can always check it. Right? 1 plus radical 5 over 2, put it in your calculator. Add 1 to it, and it should be the same as though you had squared it. The last one was with the basketball tickets. It says that the student tickets were $3 a piece, and that the general admission tickets were that's a GA were $5 a piece. The total amount of money collected was $14.50, and you sold 350 tickets. So how much of each type of ticket were sold? And the easiest way to do this is stuff that you don't know what it is. That's what you make variables. So you don't know how many student tickets were sold, so I'll call that X. And ordinarily, since you don't know how many general admission tickets were sold, you could call that Y. But you know that the total number of tickets sold was 350. So if this is X, this has to be 350 minus X. And then all you have to do is just come up with an equation involving the prices. The 1450, that's equal the total number that you got from the students, the total student money, plus the general admission money. So 1450, how much money did you get from the students? Well, since you sold X number of tickets at $3 a pop, you're going to get 3X. Plus, now the general admission, you sold those 350 minus X at $5 a pop. So that's going to be plus 5 times 350 minus X. And this is the equation that you got to work with. So if you solve this thing for X, the number that you're going to get will be the number of student tickets. So just multiply all that, you get 1450 equals, you'll get 3x plus 5 times 350. If you work that out, that's 1750 minus 5x. So the 3x, so that's 1750 minus 2x is 1450. If you subtract 1750 from both sides, you'll get 1450 minus 1750 is 300, negative 300, equals minus 2x. So you saw that you get x equals 150. So there were 150 student tickets sold. Since the total was 350, all that you have to do is take away 150 from 350, and the general admission. So the general this is the students, since we call that X, and the general admission was 200. They add up to 350, and that's the end of that.